Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source of superhero movie and TV discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Fortress, and I'm joined by Sweet Shanza Kovacs from the internet.
Hey, y'all.
And of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, an Omni-Man, finally a hero who gets it.
Finally. And of course, this week we are doing it again, everybody, over here on Amazon. They've decided it's time for another comic book series for us, and it feels like they've been talking about this for quite some time. But was it worth the wait? We'll figure all of those questions out and more as we talk the first 4 episodes of Invincible on Prime Video. And I, from what I keep seeing on the internet, I feel like a lot of people are really digging on this show.
Yeah, I feel like the people that watch it like it, but for some reason, I don't feel like it's gotten the reach that other stuff has on Prime.
Well, there is a reason for that, and we can get into it.
We'll get into all that stuff. But before we do want to say a big, giant thank you to everyone who supports this show and making it happen there over at patreon.com/HMP. Those fine people get the pre-show, post-show, and, of course, Dinger Zone. This week, we have another name to add to that list. Joe Stamil has come in at that $5 level. Sean, do we have a nickname for Joe?
We sure do. Joe, it's going to feel like it's like the nickname that I've given you here is Cheat, but it's the first thing I thought of, and I think it's great. And your HMP nickname is now Stymel Time.
Stymel Time. I like that. That sounds like he could be the tough guy in a hockey team or something, coming in at the last minute to bust in some heads. I like it. So thank you to Joe and everyone else who supports the show. If you would like to help this show, like Joe and all, we get all that other cool stuff, pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, you know about it. Head on over to patreon.com/HMP. Join up today. However big or small, make it something that is meaningful to you. And this is actually the first time we're going to say this here, boys, but Hero Movie Podcast is Podcast 2.0 certified. And as such, we can receive value for value via the Breeze or Sphinx app. Links for those will be in the show. If there are any other Podcast 2.0 apps that we have not hooked up with yet, let us know. HeroMoviePodcast@gmail.com. If you don't know what any of the words that I'm just saying mean, which is probably the majority of you, that is okay. Tune into our Dinger Zone episode where I'll try to clue you in a little bit more about what all this is. But if you do know, you know what that means. Crank up those value sliders, and when you hear something that you like, boost away. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the Dinger Zone. But let's get this show going, boys. What do you say? Here is the trailer for Invincible.
Son, kids your age think they're invincible. And it holds them back, makes them careless. You hear it?
I do.
Were you nervous?
A little. Oh, crap! Oh my god! Oh my god! I can do this! I need something to punch.
This is the beginning of a long journey for you, son. The thing is, you're different. You actually are.
No. Alrighty, that was the trailer for Invincible. We'll be talking about the first 4 episodes this week. Here's the IMDb plotline. An adult animated series based on the Skybound/Emmett comic about a teenager whose father is the most powerful superhero on the planet. Pretty weak, IMDb. Pretty weak.
What moved you to laughter in the middle of that?
It's just because it's so dumb. It's the worst. It's really the most generic, nothing bit of a log line that I've ever seen in some time. But I think we can get a little bit more background on this. What do you say?
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, I know it's going to be quite the feat for you, but see if you can outdo that IMDb log line.
Invincible was a comic book published by Skybound and Image.
Okay, so only just a...
No, I'm joking. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, people. Don't tune out yet. Invincible was a comic that ran for 144 issues. It was written by Walking Dead creator Robert Kirkman and was published by Image Comics. Corey Walker did the art for the first 7 issues before Ryan Ottley took over drawing duties. And to most folks, I think it's fair to say that Ottley is probably the artist they associate with the series. The book is notorious for being graphically violent despite its colorful nature and visuals. And I think the first time an unfamiliar reader runs across some of those images, that is what ingrains the book in one's mind, whether for good or ill. Mark Grayson, who is Invincible, is half Viltrumite, having a Viltrumite father and a human mother, and as such inherits superpowers at age 17. These powers include kind of your basic Superman powers: super strength, speed, flight, some invulnerability, and fast healing. The world of Invincible has its own version of the Justice League, the Global Guardians, as well as the Teen Titans, the Teen Team. Mark, now calling himself Invincible, starts hanging around the Teen Team while his father slaughters the Global Guardians. These events set Mark and his father on a collision course to rival that of Anakin and Luke Skywalker. Can you guys wait until we get the prequel Invincible comics where Omni-Man is a kid who's great at pod racing?
I hope so.
Since this show is ongoing, and I think there are probably listeners who are watching the show and haven't read the comics, I'm just going to leave things at that, preferring not to potentially spoil where the show may go. But I will say, and as a total coincidence, I'm sure, when children in the Walking Dead TV show are seen reading comics, it's always an issue of Invincible for some strange reason.
Seems suspicious, if you ask me. I'll be honest with you. I have never seen. I'm aware of Invincible like as a property. It seemed to be like one of those things that you saw in the pages of Wizard. Never really looked too much into it, but apparently it was a big thing for a lot of folk.
I think Sean was probably a bigger reader of the Invincible comics than I was.
Yeah, it's huge in our house. The two big titles between me and my daughters are Invincible and Chew. And I don't know what it is about Invincible, but my kids took to it instantly. They wanted to read more. I think that I went through 12 trades of Invincible and then fell off. But it's such a fun property is the best way to put it. You know, the names are fun, you know, Rexplode, multicate or multipole and duplicate.
Yeah.
Like words like, you know, like just really fun names like that. And it's also, you know, it's kind of your stock and standard superhero fare, just done very well by someone who very much enjoys the medium and doesn't look down on it and basically grew up with it like everyone else did. And so it's one of those, Invincible is one of those books where I haven't read it in a very long time, but I'm sure that if I were to pick up a trade, like let's say I pick up the latest trade, I will be completely lost for about half an issue and then I'll be all back in, just because it's the way it goes. Yeah. The storytelling is so well thought out and so well done that you can get it when you get it. You know, it's like buying comic books when you were a kid where, oh man, this is the second in a 3-story arc and I haven't read Spider-Man in 5 years, but I'll be able to pick it up pretty quickly. And that's what Invincible is too.
And it's kind of cool because originally Kirkman's plan was this would be like, the indie it'd be like Spawn, you know, it would be something that he would write as long as he wanted to and then pass the baton and it could go on for 600-700. How, you know, it could just go on forever. And then at some point he kind of fell in love with the character a little bit and decided he did not want to hand it off. And he actually had like a complete story. So, you know, maybe, I don't know how many issues of Preacher there are, but you know, it's kind of in that maxi series theme where 144 issues is a nice long run, but it's a complete story, you know, beginning, middle, and end. But also, like you said there, Sean, you can jump in and have fun along the way too.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the things that I really enjoyed about Invincible is that you could get in on the ground floor. There isn't 40 years. It doesn't look weird to a kid. You know, because Ryan Ottley, I don't think Ryan Ottley started the book.
Yeah, Corey Walker did the first 7 issues, and that's also kind of a cool story because Kirkman was not the Kirkman we know now when this started. And it's got a very Ninja Turtles kind of beginning because Corey Walker was sleeping on the floor in Kirkman's place while he was doing the art for this until they sold it and got some money. But after 7 issues, Walker, who's a great artist, decided he would rather be more like a cover artist and not do interior art. And that's when Otley came on. And Otley was also just a guy who was doing his own web comics and putting them out on the internet, like, no money indie comic stuff. And somehow Kirkman ran across it and thought, that's the guy I want for this book. And now he's one of the most in-demand comic artists out there. I love these kind of stories.
And it looks great. It looks modern, but it's still throwbacky. There is something very unique about the character designs in this book. And Ryan Otley, I mean, you can attest to this too, Bruce. Ryan Otley can draw a 30-page comic book in about 15 minutes. I mean,
the guy's an amazing talent.
He's so fast, and it all looks so great, and the lines are so simple and lovely and wonderful. And by simple, I don't mean that as a downgrade. I mean, it's just fun to look at.
It's clean lines, strong lines. Yeah, it has something classic about it, and I think that's why a lot of people love Otley.
Right. And so, I was familiar with Otley just through his Ultimate Spider-Man run, and he was doing it for a long time. And so I didn't really love the way that Spider-Man was drawn in Ultimate Spider-Man, but I do love Invincible, and I do love all the character designs in Invincible. And so when I heard that they were making a cartoon, because I didn't bother with that MTV motion comic thing, because I hate motion comics.
Oh, I did.
Well, motion comics are. I've yet to come across one where I was like, that was worth my time. It's always just this is terrible. Who would like to take in this medium like this? Right.
And so when I heard that Amazon was making a cartoon series, I was it wasn't like I was something like, oh, come on, you're going to kill it, because it's not that kind of book. It's the kind of book where you're like, oh, Savage Dragon has its own cartoon series on USA Network, and he's got a dog that's also a dragon. Who cares? It's like
very bad adaptation.
It's kind of like that for me with Invincible. So when I heard they were making the cartoon, I was like, okay, that's great. And on your recommendation, Bruce, a couple of weeks ago, I want to say 2 weeks ago now, I started watching it. And by the end of the first episode, I was like, oh, they really care. Like, they want this to be great.
And I would say, I mean, we can go ahead and get into a little bit of the analysis, but it is that, I don't know, would you call that an epilogue? It's not exactly a post-credit scene. The title card goes up, but like the last 10 to 15 minutes of that first episode is what convinces people, I think, to buy into this.
Sure.
Not that the first 20 or 30 minutes aren't fine, but you don't really know that it's a different kind of story until you get into that brutal scene there at the end of the first episode.
Yeah, if you just turned it off the second that you saw like the associate executive producer's name or whoever it is, the first one that comes up, if you just hit stop, you'd be like, all right, that's fine. Let's wait for whatever episode 2 is going to be. But if you get past those first 2 little credits there, and you're right, Bruce, and it goes on through all of these shows themselves, these episodes so far. I'm not sure what else we can call that other than maybe just like an epilogue ending or something.
Yeah, some episodes have longer ones than others, but it's like, it's like the toy at the bottom of the Cracker Jack. The Cracker Jacks are good, but you get real excited once you start getting close enough that you're going to reach that toy. And that's kind of what these episodes are like. Like, they're good, but man, I start getting real excited once the title card comes up, because what nugget are they going to give us next?
Well, one of the things that I really enjoy about the show is that it takes its time. It can be a very loud, boisterous, going crazy bananas show, but it also is very quiet at times. And, people are thoughtful and people are staring off into the middle distance a lot on this show. And it's one of the things that I really enjoy about it is that they're not rushing to get to the next thing. They're not, it's something where the story takes precedent over anything else. And I really like that it's drawn out is the wrong word, because, Invincible's invincible within the first 10 minutes of the show, but it's something where the pacing of it, I enjoy, and it sort of has and this is going to seem so sacrilegious to some people, but it feels a little Better Call Saul to me, Where Better Call Saul, nothing happens. Oh my God. Like it's that kind of thing.
Exactly, man. There's enough of that random reinforcement. It's like playing the slot machine. No matter how many times it comes up with nothing, all you need to do is hit a couple of jackpots and you're hooked.
But that's the thing. You're also, I think, story-wise, you're not even having to hit like a lot of jackpots. As long as you can hit little tiny ones, that's A-okay as well. And that's where I think so far with these 4 episodes is really the crux of where this show is that not only is it giving us, the comic booky little action, sci-fi, everything that you've asked for in a comic book show, it also gives you actual characters with motivations that we realize, who everyone is, what their spot is in this. Not that it's in a, stereotypical, like, cookie cutter way or anything, but it's enough to where you see where all of these characters are going and you actually care about them. You're invested in them, and when these action scenes happen, you have something to go back to that makes you actually relate to these characters instead of seeing just a bunch of pretty, colors strike back and forth on the screen.
And the other thing too is that we keep calling them side characters, but they're not treated as side characters on the show. And even something as silly as the first guy that Invincible beats when he has his power, that guy comes back with better tech. I just love, they did it in the books, they do it in the series, where you're going to keep seeing the same people, and they do get better as Mark gets better. And so it's just more fun to see, like, oh, that's how they went with it, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think some of the magic that really pulls specifically me in is that it has this uncommon combination where it's like one part Peter Porker and one part the boys. Like they have some of these really silly parody characters like Biplane, who's basically Vulture, only his wings are biplane wings, and it would totally be at home in some kind of very comedic sort of story. But then it's also got the brutality, and anytime there's a fight, there's just blood everywhere, Right. So it's got this weird combination of extremes that you don't get in one story very often, and I think that's part of the appeal.
And just like the small things like the clone twins, and they're constantly fighting over who the clone is, and they keep coming back even though they get viciously murdered all the time. Like it's just such a fun show. And so if we want to get into it, because I can very specifically tell you why some people don't like this show.
All right.
But before we get into the specifics, just one more thing more about the comics. Adam, I think if you saw the trades on the shelf, they would probably jump out at you specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Because all the trades are like named after TGIF shows. Like there's a Family Matters trade, a Perfect Strangers trade, a Full House trade. Yeah, it's that to me speaks directly to you, Adam.
I need to spend more money. I'll shoot. Okay, well, fine.
And you did catch the name of the high school he goes to, right, Adam?
Ooh, I can't say that I did.
Reginald Vell Johnson High.
Oh my God! Well, then it would have gotten my heart even more.
The principal is Principal Winslow, and the actor who provides the voice for Principal Winslow is Reginald Vell Johnson.
Oh my Lord! All right.
This
show got even better for me right now.
I thought this would be the first thing that jumped out at you, Adam. You got to get to episode 5 where Principal Winslow, who does look a lot like Mr. Winslow, is on screen.
All right, I'm not there yet, but I will get there. Believe you me. Listen, you've said enough. All right, I was already on board. Okay, now I've bought my ticket twice. All right,
you had me at Reginald Vell Johnson.
I need a place to stretch out.
Okay, sorry to derail. Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
If it's okay, I'll open up by saying I went into this 100% cold. I mean, I knew the comics. I'd seen that MTV2 motion comic, and I was the kind of guy that used to say, oh, yeah, it's pretty good, when really it wasn't, but it was all you had. And it was the same story, so that was good. But as soon as this comes on and John Hamm is like outside of the White House or wherever they're at talking to the other guy, I'm looking at this art style, and I suddenly kind of groan. I'm like, the first 10 seconds, I'm thinking this is going to turn people off because this is really like mass produced. It's like the DC movie art style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is sad because this is going to be one of those things where the story's good, but the art just doesn't have any character or emotion to it. But man, within no time, I realized, oh no, these people are being really true to Otley's vision, I think.
Yeah.
I think
it looks more like Otley's art than I ever thought it would.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it has the proper aesthetic and everything, but I do agree with Bruce that it's not quite perfect enough, and like there's just tiny little things that I think that would just add so much to this show, and really chief among them is just a little bit more facial animation on all these guys. I mean, like I'm not talking, you don't have to go over the top and crazy town or anything. But I feel like if we had just a little bit more, facial expressions and stuff, we would really start to hammer home the feelings that I feel like this show is trying to make us feel.
Yeah, it's stuck a little bit in that uncanny valley, at least in the beginning, where it's like if the animation quality was lower, it would be endearing, like in a Beavis and Butthead way, or if it was a little bit higher, then it's going to grab you. But it takes a minute to get where it's going.
Yeah, but the style overall is cool. The kind of realistic, we have tons of CGI backgrounds here and everything. By and large, they aren't too awful distracting. Sometimes they're a little bit distracting, but it's also because we're not used to seeing a lot of stuff like that. So chances are you're going to eyeball to the background a little bit more going, hey, what's going on back here? I'm not used to seeing stuff like this.
Well, they do a little bit of that, not as much as the comics, because in the comics there's so much in the background of Invincible. They do have a bit of it, which I enjoy, and I'm glad that they did it, and to a surprising extent. Because I'll tell you, going into this, I was going to give it a puncher's chance. I did not think it was going to be something that was going to hold my fancy at all. But by, I would say, midway through that first episode, I already knew I was going to watch the next episode, and we hadn't even gotten to the big boy, the big reveal yet. And so I will tell you, this show now has become one of the two shows that I'm like, I'm looking forward to seeing the next episode of this thing. It's this and Winter Soldier now. And I cannot tell you the last time I had two shows I was excited to watch. It's been a million years.
I'm also in this point of like a plague of riches. Like I wish this and Winter Soldier were staggered so that I could have one Friday show. Because man, it'd be fun to have done a 30 questions on this, but there's no way we can really practically run two at the same time. But man, it would have been cool if this started up after Winter Soldier was done or something.
Yeah,
well, we got 2 weeks gaps. And then Loki.
Yeah, my goodness. They're keeping us in a tight regimen like this is spring football practice or something.
Hey, I'll take it this way because man, we've been longing for some good material for quite some time. So when they're like, "Bro, we're gonna give you good stuff back to back to back to back," and I'm like, "Right on, let's do it."
Well, that's why when I think it was last week when Bruce was like, "Are we gonna do that thing we talked about?" I was like, "No, we're gonna be deluged with a bunch of stuff here. Like it's gonna keep coming."
Yeah.
Yeah,
there'll be times and places for all that other stuff, but right now, the floodgates are starting to pierce open a little bit here.
Is now a good time to talk about how jam-packed this cast is?
Sure.
Ooh, I tell you what, Amazon's spending some money, it seems, because y'all got like Oscar winners and Emmy winners and all kinds of stuff up in here.
Well, they've got like great, just great actors that you would recognize if it wasn't animation, and they have distinctive voices. And then peppered in with that, they don't just have like the voice actors from Central. They've got like the best of the voice actors thrown in with those best of the live action actors. It's crazy good casting, like all the way down. Like everybody who speaks almost is someone who's either worked in prominent animation or live action.
And some of them both.
Yeah.
Like your J.K. Simmons, obviously done enough in animation and live action and everything. And
he's my favorite Peanut.
He really is. Yeah, that was one that I don't know why I didn't know that forever and a day until like not too awful long, much later in the whole the birth of that Peanut character than I really wanted to know. But he's really great. He's in seeing the, like you said, Bruce, the voice actor, aficionados like Kevin Michael Richardson coming in, just doing a bajillion voices, and that
Carrie Payton.
That man's voice is just golden. Yeah. And, of course, if you have any role, I don't care if it's live action or it's an animation, if you need a psychopath, Jason Mantzoukas is your boy.
Man, can you imagine how hot that mic must be all the time?
Man.
Just listening to him, just listening to the vocals of his character on the show makes me go, oh my God, they must have been twisting and turning knobs for days.
And then even small roles like the tailor, when they go to get his superhero costume, the tailor is Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like anybody who just was like, okay, sure, I'll jump in here. And even one thing that I was kind of surprised with was Zachary Quinto as the robot, and I was just like, oh, well, we have a substitute Bill Hader if we need to. It sounded very Bill Hader-esque. I was like, why would Hader do such a role that's like supremely just down key all the time? And like, I feel like he'd want to have a little bit more fun with it than that. And then you realize it's Zachary Quinto, and you're like, good on you, Zachary Quinto, not bad.
He's the perfect choice for that character.
But but like when you realize that it's him, it's like, oh, it is perfect
type character.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, I mean, I didn't know. I knew a couple of people in the voice cast ahead of time, but literally like 3. And then out of nowhere, when he meets Alan the alien and Seth Rogen's voice is coming out of the mental communications there, that was one I thought, how did I not know that was coming?
Well, yeah, he's producer of the show.
I was about to say, isn't he a producer of this program? So that one was the one that certainly didn't surprise me. I'm like, oh yeah, well of course.
I knew that he was on board with his partner Evan Goldberg. Is that the name, Evan Goldberg?
Uh-huh.
They are on board for what is supposed to still be in pre-production, a live action Invincible film, but I didn't know he was involved with the animated series. I didn't know that.
I believe so. Now you got me questioning my thing, but I'm like 98.
No, I'm sure you're right. I mean, he's got the Amazon deal.
Okay. You are right.
But yeah, just seeing all those coming in here, and like I've never been a big Sandra Oh fan on television, but I think her voice acting's fantastic. I think she does a tough job here, being that regular person in the superhero household and everything, and still trying to hold all the stuff together with these two powerful beings. And like, where does she fit in all this equation? I was surprised at how much I enjoy that character.
And Zazie Beetz picking up.
Hold on. Let's go backwards for a second because I want to talk about Sandra Oh more. So Sandra Oh, the character that she's playing, Mark's mom is a much more fleshed out character on the series than it is in the book. She gets a personality later in the series, in the book, but on the show, it starts off right away. Like she's her own person instead of just being Mark's mom. And I did enjoy that. I thought that that was a good move because that's one of the biggest differences between the TV show and the book. But to get to Sandra Oh for a second, I was totally indifferent towards Sandra Oh. I only knew her as that lady from Arliss forever.
Yes.
Arliss.
And then I saw her, she's on Killing Eve, and Killing Eve is one of the best, most fun shows in the world. It's so great. And she's in it. And she's the main character on the show. And boy, she is just terrific on that show. So when I saw that she was going to be in Invincible, I was like, hell yes, let's go.
Yeah, she's always the lady from Sideways to me.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, that was the big one. Of course, 8 billion years on Grey's Anatomy. Is that show still on the air? That's one of those.
Sure is.
That's one of those shows that you're just like,
It's
that's
been on
still
longer-
going.
It's been on longer than ER now.
Oh my word!
Which is crazy to think.
Yeah. But no, I liked all. So, and we talked about them last week in one, or maybe 2 weeks ago, in one way, shape, or form. But Stephen Yeun coming in as Mark is really good. Again, I feel like he's doing a little bit more in the voice acting department, and I feel like if they cranked up the animation level just a little bit, again on the faces and stuff, is that we would feel so much closer to Mark, because I think he's actually given a really good performance here.
Yeah.
My question going into it was, would he be able to be convincing as a teenager? Because the guy's, mid-30s probably?
That sounds about right.
He does have a very youthful voice, though. I was surprised by that.
And then I also wonder if they're doing just a tiny bit of pitch shifting to raise the pitch of his voice, because they can do that easily now.
I wouldn't put it past all the South Park guys have basically been like, all right, we don't want to kill our voices completely for the rest of our lives, so let's just let's tweak that in post, shall we? And it makes your life a lot easier.
I've seen him speak in person, and his natural voice isn't this high. But then again, an actor can change the pitch of the voice, but I just wonder if there's a little tech going into it too.
Well, we mentioned pitch and voices. Let's go to the other end of that spectrum. Clancy Brown coming in is basically rip-off Hellboy.
No. Here is what Damien Darkblood is. It's Hellboy meets Rorschach.
Well, yeah, there certainly felt like some Rorschach in there, no doubt.
The speaking pattern is 100% Rorschach, and in interviews, Kirkman says, "Yeah, that was my Rorschach character."
Yeah, that makes sense. You combine those two and put that hat on them, sure thing.
I mean, willing to stand up to the most powerful person in the galaxy, or at least in the solar system, and not, consequences be darned. He's not going to back down. That's Damien Darkblood. That's Rorschach. But yeah, it's like Hellboy and Rorschach had a baby. And that baby also had a very deep voice.
Frightening, as always.
And Clancy Brown, I mean, yeah, he's a great live action actor, but to me, he's one of those legends of superhero cartoon voice acting.
Yeah, you get up there and past a certain time, and like his name is always in the mix in whatever it is that's coming up, and you're like, Clancy Brown's in that? Well, no shock. He's amazing at this. Of course, that's why you get him. Still
one of the best Lex Luthors ever.
Oh, that's I wasn't even a huge fan of that show, but like, his Luthor was just the best.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the violence, because that was what, like you said, up until, the very end of that first episode and everything, I was just like, all right, this is fine. This is good. I wasn't like wild at what everybody else was saying. Everything that I had heard was just like, yo, the end. And I was just like, Oh, but there's an after show, and sure enough, we go insane, kind of like just anime level of blood and guts, which I loved. I thought it was great.
There's also this like touch of realism for a fantastic superhero show, but the fight is not quick, and like people stop and just catch their breath for a few seconds before their next salvo, I mean, and the brutality just feels so real from something animated, with the pacing of it and catching their breath and the brutality of it and the sound mix. I mean, the Foley, I don't know if you'd still call it a Foley artist, but the person who's putting in those disgusting sounds of snapping bones and smashing flesh, it's just done in a way that it feels kind of like when, I don't know, they say like this action movie isn't giving us fantasy violence, it's giving it a real world feel. That's what happens here.
Yeah, stuff is just everywhere, and I like that this the end of this episode, and again, as someone who knows nothing of the books, it leaves such a wild question mark that, like, boy, what a way to stamp in on your first episode here, to just go like, all right, you thought you had a pretty good idea about how all this is going on. No, there's something else to it, and we're not even going to delve into that too awful much, even for the next 3 episodes. And that's kind of astounding to me, that they've kind of left that dangling there at the beginning, and we're really, as far as the end of the 4th episode, for the most part, we don't really come back around to it too much. We're supposed to just kind of sit with that in the back of our minds, going like, okay, when's the other shoe gonna drop?
And then there's another, I don't know if it's episode 2 or episode 3, but there are those aliens that keep trying to invade, where time moves differently for them. And then finally, when Omni-Man is sick of their garbage, and it shows him going back to their home planet and just committing genocide. Like, you thought it was violent when he took out the global guardians. He wiped out an entire planet's population in I don't know how long he was there, but he came back with a shaggy beard, and like, you thought, man, I've never seen something as brutal as when he killed the global guardians. Then he goes and commits genocide, and this is just like, and it's not like Jean Grey blowing up a whole planet. He is almost snapping every single neck of millions of people on his own.
Taking his time with this one, and he's kind of enjoying it. So yeah, I would say he was probably there, because that's another element of this that I really liked, is the relative time between these two dimensions. They're gone for 3 days, but it seems like 30 years as far as the amount of technology that they've received and learned from this last experience, and now they have even stronger skills to fight against you the next time is the exact same way. I thought that was really neat, and just stuff you don't quite see that much in these. It's a lot of times there's a big giant thing, let's just fight them, and that's it. This says, all right, no, there's a reason that they're fighting. There's a reason that they're going to come back for the next time and be better. It's a little bit of video game logic, but it works really well.
And, for fans of the Punic Wars, any history fans, it's the Carthaginian solution. You're tired of their crap, so you go wipe out their entire civilization.
Man, I am so tired of you talking about that, Bruce.
About the Punic Wars?
comes up all the time. We're just all
Jesus,
having.
shut up about the Punic War.
And you thought I used to shoehorn Alan Moore into every conversation.
Just you wait, boy.
I got to tell you, when his dad goes through the portal, when Omni-Man goes through the portal, I was like, oh no, oh boy, that's gonna be bad.
Oh man, and it's funny because I think you kind of get the idea that Mark's worried about his father in that situation, but we find out he is not the one who needed your sympathy.
No, just
Right.
a little over the top there. That's all. And J.K. Simmons again is just kind of destroying this role. It's so good. And it's weird because like you almost see that mustache on him, and you know that voice so well. It sounds like him, but in a weird way, it doesn't. But it kind of looks like him in an odd, strange way. If that makes any weird perverted sense.
Have you seen the picture of him at the gym that went around on Twitter?
Oh yeah, that was
He's
for
like
the first time when he was jacking up for the Justice League movie, and I'm like, why does Gordon need to be so jacked?
I think the joke was he didn't know it was animation, so people were saying, "Look, he really got jacked to play Omni-Man. Nobody told him." I think it's fair to say that all three of us are pretty big fans of Walt Coggins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he is absolutely tearing up that role he's got too.
And I'll say this: it's surprising for Walton Goggins' role. He's not as maybe it's just because we can't see him, but he's not as dripping with scumminess as he normally does. It's a little drawn back for some of his work. And
No, the thing that I love this performance. I love Zachary Quinto's performance. It's kind of funny because they've kind of flipped what they usually do because there's something shady about Robot. Like you're just like, hey, that guy's up to no good.
Something's not right.
Right. I mean, I know the story, but as of this moment right now, like, hey, that guy's up to no good. And then you have Cecil just being somebody who you're like, I don't trust him either, but he's not dripping with horribleness like Wally Goggs usually does.
He comes across as that kind of bureaucratic military awfulness where it's like if you realize you're not able to defeat your enemy, you pretend like they're not your enemy. Like, I mean, that's basically what his character boils down to. He knows they got no chance against Omni-Man, so all they can do is pretend like he's not a suspect.
I was thinking like maybe Thunderbolt's the only person I could kind of think he'd be sort of like
Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah.
But
Close enough.
Yeah, but Thunderbolt has this different kind of like he thinks he can defeat anybody and make anybody bow down. Coggins is a survivor. It's like, okay, so Damien Darkblood and Omni-Man are on a collision course. Well, it's easier to take out Darkblood, so let's just do that regardless of who's right.
Yeah, he's playing chess in the right way.
It's like two countries go to war. He joins the side he's pretty sure is going to win instead of the side he thinks is right.
Do we buy the Adam Eve Rexplode relationship? Well, why would anybody be with this insane man? Maybe it's just the Jason Mantzoukas wearing off, but he plays terrible characters.
Yeah, but then again, she's what, 15, 16? She's a teenager. She's a high school student. And how often have you seen like high school students with somebody it's not a good match for him? And on top of that, we will start to see as Mark is trying to date Amber, that if you're a superhero dating a non-superhero, it's difficult for them to understand your schedule. Like I would compare that to people in entertainment or medicine. There's lots of professions where people who don't have a good grasp on what your duties are, it's hard for them to understand your unpredictability in your time. That's why it's so hard to date a podcaster.
Oh, don't ever date a podcaster.
But Duplicate, what is her deal with why on earth would she get with Rexplode?
Because once again, I guess I'll just default back to the it's either him or Robot. Like how many choices does she have on the team? Granted, I would choose Robot, but I'm not Duplicate. Plus, it's do you feel detached if it's not really you? It's a couple of your clones, and if they get something, you just do away with them, and we don't speak of this again.
I mean, it's not like she's not a part of the team. I feel like she should have caught a little bit of that heat too. It's just like you're both bad people. I mean,
Yeah. Agreed.
But that's like, on Gilligan's Island saying, why are Ginger and Marianne both going after the professor? Well, come on. Nobody wants Gilligan or Skipper.
Poor Gilligan and Skipper. They never had a chance. No, I like the crazy violence in this. Another thing that I kind of liked is, when was this written again? The original comic?
Oh man, I couldn't give you the date. The early 2000s.
Yeah, it's roughly early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, because it feels like they've updated some stuff, which is perfectly fine and everything. But I've seen a lot of stuff now, be it this or other things that we're covering in different podcasts and stuff, is that it doesn't feel like, and this is always a good thing, doesn't feel like anybody's preaching to me anything yet, which is nice. It just it feels like we're getting good story and we're focusing on the story. And if you have like an underlying message in that, that's perfectly, great, and that's welcomed and everything. No one wants to be smashed over the head with it. I don't care who you are. I don't see anybody going, I must be, bashed with this lesson. Give us the lesson. That's all super well and great, but focus on the actual story itself. And it feels like they're doing a lot of that here, and kind of putting a little bit of a thumb in the eye of some of the things that,
and overall
through life and stuff, which I feel like Kirkman's kind of always sort of done.
And I'm no expert on the story, but I think at the end of the day, if there is a lesson or a moral to the story, it's just that it's hard to be at that stage between being a kid and being a grown up. I mean, that's what it's all about, is Mark growing up and how tough it is. Learning
that perhaps the world that he's seen is not, exactly what he, would have thought it was ahead of time with whatever's going on with the dad situation. Again, we'll certainly find more of that out as the show goes on.
And, you can think of any kid that hates high school and they're like, man, as soon as I'm out of school, life's going to be so great. And spoiler warning, it ain't.
Yeah.
It's just a different flavor of bad. Yeah, I mean, not bad, but challenging, tough. Life is always a struggle unless you're one of those rare few people for whom it isn't.
Yeah, I always say it's we all see those people that just go, oh, that's an adult. They've got it all figured out. No, they don't. not most of them. Most of them are just as clueless as they were, 20 years prior. So
if we can get into it, because I have a buddy at work who does not like this show.
Okay.
And the reason why he does not like this show is because at first it seemed to him like it was just another superhero thing. It wasn't different enough from anything else he's ever seen. And he's not somebody who shies away from sci-fi. Like he's a big reader of fiction, and I wouldn't call him a superhero fan, but if the story's good enough, he'll watch it. And he doesn't like Invincible. And there's two reasons for this. And the first one, like I said, is because it just seemed like every other superhero. The second thing is that to him, the violence on the show was so jarring that he couldn't keep watching it. And so
I could see that.
Yeah, and I get it. I totally get it. And he's not going to get the clever asides like Reginald Val Johnson High School. Like, he's not going to understand that reference. And he's not going to get that the names are silly on purpose because it's all about a bygone era. Like, he's not going to get that either. And so it doesn't hold sway for him the way that something like the pilot episode of Walking Dead did. Like I think that most of your normies love the pilot episode of Walking Dead, as they should. It's an amazing pilot.
As far as pilots goes, it's pretty darn solid. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing pilot. And so that's where they grab you, right? But for this show, there's not enough to grab somebody who may not have an interest in it like we do, but has a passive interest in something like this. Like, oh, hey, let's see what that's about, that person. This show is not going to grab those people, I don't believe.
Yeah, it could be difficult for them. And like you said, I certainly think, coming up on the end of episode 1, the violence certainly, shows a lot of that, could throw somebody off really quick. And I think these might be the same people that, a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Akira, there's certain moments in that where a regular person might just go like, no, I'm out.
I'm out.
I don't know what the hell this is, but I ain't watching it. No, thank you. A little bit too much for my taste. So I could see somebody having that exact same reaction with this, because it certainly is, it's extreme, but it's meant to be. And to me, that's what kind of, and I think a lot of other people, it sounds like, endured them to it and made them go like, oh, all right, there's a little something else that's going on here. Let's see where we're going with it. And I thought that was a fantastic way to end that first episode.
And it's extreme in a way that's different from how The Boys is extreme.
Right.
The one thing I was worried is people would just see superheroes, blood, violence, and think this is just another version of The Boys, which it's not at all.
Yeah, and like
so
there's
far,
not even like a lot of bad language for the most part. There's a little bit here and there, but like it's not like it's not like The Boys level or anything like that. So you don't feel like you're not that I dislike The Boys doing that, but sometimes you guys all know there's sometimes where it just hits you over the face and you're like, you're trying too hard, bro.
But it's just a different type of show altogether.
Yeah.
And, I was speculating that some people were going to be negative about this show, saying it's just like another version of The Boys, which I don't think it is. But so far, I haven't heard anyone say that. But I'll also say I haven't heard from anyone who has watched this show that wasn't already a fan from the comics. I don't know that, being animation, I just don't know that it's casting a wide net to grab adults to watch it.
That's always a tough thing too with these shows, is that there's so many places to get things to watch these days. You're everywhere, and so you have to try your best to capture that sort of market. And it's Amazon.
I ain't got no
so
time to watch Invincible. I ain't got no time to watch Invincible. There's 8 seasons I haven't seen of Cake Boss yet.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my parents will do nothing but watch one of those. It's not CSI, what's Criminal Minds or any of that crap, just like on repeat on Netflix, and it's like, you've seen all of these. What are you doing? And it's just like, it's like dumb, stupid background music to them.
Yeah, it's comfort.
Yeah, I don't get it. And I'm just like, how do you keep watching this?
I mean, I get it. Just for me, it's probably a 90s sitcom or something.
Yeah, and I would say the same way.
People have their different comfort.
I'm that way with Seinfeld and like Frasier and stuff. So I can't talk too much, but I don't do it all of the time. I'll have like a little run of it, and then I'll quit for a long time.
I was specifically talking about Just Shoot Me. I thought everybody had that on in the background all the time.
Oh man, Just Shoot Me. Rest in peace. What's the guy's name that starred in that flick?
David Spade?
No. Well, let's get down to it before we get to our thoughts, not a review, because we're going to be covering the second half of this season in not too long. But let's do this first. How does this television show relate back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone?
Thanks, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Yeah.
Jennifer Jo Barker is an associate producer on Invincible. She worked on the movie that I like to call What If Jesus Was a Lion, also known as The Chronicles of Narnia. She was a visual effects coordinator. She would move on to the job of previs production manager in 2014's Godzilla, moved up to a producer from there. Jennifer Jo moved into the very lucrative world of Barbie movies, working with titles with names like Dolphin Magic and Barbie and Her Sisters in a Puppy Chase. Other Barbie direct-to-video honorable mentions are Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses, Barbie Mermaidia, Barbie in the Diamond Castle, and Barbie's Requiem for a Dream.
Uh-oh.
Jennifer Jo Barker has worked on a lot of big projects, and in 2016, she was the production manager on a movie no one's ever seen, and it may not actually exist, called Ratchet and Clank. It's based on the video game, it's animated, and it's not something that actually exists unless you believe in the theory of dark matter. It also has a pretty big cast with names like John Goodman, Rosario Dawson, and Sylvester Stallone. I'm not sure why Stallone would agree to do a voice in this movie, but I'm going to guess that they lured him with money and money and money. This movie got crushed before this small movie ever came out, except for a small vocal community. The good people who rate movies on IMDb have a lot to say about it. And today's user review comes from Lincoln 6 Echo, and his review is entitled, As good as the games, 3 exclamation points. He writes, I see a lot of critics bashing this movie, saying it's too kiddie and unfunny. Well, let me give my 2 cents. I'm 36 years old and went with my 2 friends. Overall, definitely worth seeing in the theater. Didn't watch it in 3D, though, but I would imagine the effect would look stunning since it's a CGI movie. 8 out of 10 stars.
Wow.
And there you have it, HMPers and Dingalingers. This week's Stallone Connection is associate producer Jennifer Jo Barker. Adam and Bruce, this is the 350th episode of this bit. I've done this joke 350 times, and still no word from Sylvester Stallone.
I feel like we're at least halfway there. Well, we're not going to go through our Robin rating as we have not seen the entirety of this first season. But let's just kind of talk a little bit about what we hope seeing, or at least what we like so far going forward here. Bruce, what do you think?
I really am enjoying this story. What I'm hoping more people will watch this. I want there to be some, like, a little bit of buzz, a little conversation about it. So if you haven't checked the show out, but for some reason you listen, and you know what, we did pretty good about not being too spoilery
Not
here.
too much.
So
yeah, I wanted to so bad, but I didn't do it.
But I'm just asking, if you're hearing my voice now and you haven't watched this show yet, please just go watch the first episode all the way through and then make up your mind. I really want people to watch this.
And if it makes you feel any better, the credits aren't as long as they are in all the Marvel shows. So
They couldn't possibly be.
I don't know that anything else could be quite so long, which is a feature in and of itself. Sean, what else?
For me, it's the little touches with this show. Like, Bruce mentions the title card, that there's blood splatter on the title card. That blood splatter is getting more and more with each episode. It's just little nice touches like that. And this show is chock-a-block full of it. I can't wait for each episode. As I said, this is one of 2 shows that I look forward to seeing each week. And I'm going to watch it in its entirety, whether or not we're watching this. And I'm actually going to watch it, unlike Adam.
Hey, that's true a lot of times. But we will continue to watch this because, I think
it's part of the show, so you'll see it.
I think we're all interested, and I'm contractually obligated to watch this thing. But I wouldn't, even if I wasn't, I would feel like I would want to. I couldn't guarantee that I would, but I would feel like I would want to. But we'll talk more about that. I like it. The only thing that I would say, I do like the fact that the blood keeps coming on more in the Invincible logo at the beginning. I, however, am already over the we wait to say Invincible and then the title card comes up because it's
not me. I love that. I think that's nice.
Yeah.
I wish it was done a little bit better. I think that's just like the idea is there, but sometimes like if I'm not there for it, it's not that it is even off per se, but it just feels like the comedy timing isn't there. And I understand the interrupting, comedy of it all, but it just something rhythm just isn't quite there or something.
I think what's bothering you is the sound, because that wah wah comes on whenever that happens.
That may be the uh-oh sound that just makes my brain just go, no, ooh, sour note. Why would you do that? Why would you, hit those strings in that fashion? No, thank you. So we'll talk about this in subsequent episodes of Hero Movie Podcast. What we're doing next week, I don't think we exactly talked about that beforehand, so we'll talk about it.
I think we're going to do Thunder Force.
You want to do that one?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's gird our loins for Thunder Force for next week.
I can think of no better way to spend a week than to watching Thunder Force on Netflix. I gotta pay for my Netflix subscription for some things, because I haven't been watching a ton of things on Netflix. So it feels like at least I need to get some sort of goal out of
some sort of value.
Some sort of value, because I'll tell you what, that's how you do it, though. You give value to the things that you find valuable. And for some reason, I'm giving way too much money to Netflix right now. You're getting bussed down to one screen, Netflix. It's coming. It's coming. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Hey, if people want to see me spend about 12 and a half minutes simply naming off every member of the cast in Invincible, you can go to my YouTube channel. I did a little Invincible first impressions thing there. Got a couple other videos up there too. Flag Smasher, Johnny Walker, and Battlestar. I've got Baron Zemo in the hopper to come out this coming Thursday. So please, I'm actually begging begging for subscribers here, but please, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie.
They're dingertastic, everybody. Go check them out. Links in the show notes. Sean, what else?
Well, he's got 2 subscribers right here
Oh, yeah.
next to him on this show.
We watch.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not fans, but we watch.
You can find more of our combined works at the Falcon and Winter Soldier 30 Questions podcast, where each week we go through the newest episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier and we ask 30 questions about that episode. And, I get it. Like, sometimes people are like, 30 questions? Like, what? But listen, it's a good format. You should listen.
Yeah, and as many times as we go as 30 questions, there are more than actual 30 questions. Could you imagine if we just shut the show off and anytime someone got to that 30th question, we were like, nope, that's it, and decided
Well, do you
to stop?
remember we used to have a time limit on that too? Like, it needed to be an hour, and now that's just thrown out the window completely.
She flies as she flies. That's how we do it on that show. And
That's right, baby.
That's what the people want, and we hope that you want more of that and more of this show. Join us back here next week when we're talking Thunder Force. For Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Fortress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore, and I know too much to go back and pretend, 'cause I've heard it all before, and I've been down there on the floor. No one's ever gonna keep me down again. Whoa, yes, I'm wise, but it's wisdom for the pain. Yes, I paid the price, but look how much I gained. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong. I am invincible. I am woman. You can bend but never break me, 'cause it only serves to make me